Escaping the Rat Race, The Controversial Author, his doomsday predictions for 2026, and finally, Teaching the Next Generation.
Section 1. The Financial Literacy Phenomenon.
So the core premise of this book hits really hard. The idea is that traditional education trains you to be a great employee, right? But it totally fails to teach you how to actually manage money. To define financial literacy, Kiyosaki contrasts two distinct father figures. You've got his biological dad, the poor dad, who was this highly educated government official, a literal doctor of science. But despite all those degrees and a stable job, he constantly struggled with money, ultimately losing everything in a failed ice cream franchise later in life. Yikes. Then you have the rich dad, his best friend's father. No formal education whatsoever, but man, he understood how money flowed, and he built incredible wealth. The big takeaway here? Wealth isn't about the size of your paycheck. It's about how you manage that money, protect it, and ultimately make it work for you.
Section 2. Assets versus liabilities.
Okay, picture a cartoon wallet in your head. This whole concept boils down to understanding what actively fills that wallet up and what drains it. And here's the absolute kicker, this deeply ingrained middle-class trap. Most of us genuinely believe we are buying assets, when in reality, we're just loading up on liabilities. The classic example in the book is your own house, or maybe a fancy car bought on a loan. The poor dad mindset sees that house as their biggest asset, but the rich dad mindset, it only cares about cash flow. Think about it. If that house comes with a mortgage, property taxes, maintenance, and insurance, well, it's pulling money out of your pocket every single month. By Kiyosaki's strict definition, that makes it a liability. And mistaking a liability for an asset is exactly what traps people in lifelong debt.
So, what actually puts money in your pocket? True assets. These are things that generate cash flow completely independently of your daily grind. We're talking rental real estate that pays its own mortgage and still turns a profit, dividend-paying stocks, intellectual property like royalties from writing a book, or a business that runs smoothly whether you show up to the office or not. Kiyosaki has this golden rule. True luxury should only ever be the reward for successful investing. You don't just go out and buy a luxury car on credit. No, you buy the asset first, and the cash flow from that asset buys the car. Make sense?
Section 3. Escaping the Rat Race. Now, escaping that endless, exhausting cycle of waking up just to work for a paycheck requires a massive mindset shift. Enter the cash flow quadrant. On the left side, you've got the employee, who basically works for the system, and the self-employed person, who essentially is the system. Think about a self-employed doctor. If they stop working, the income stops flowing. True financial freedom means crossing over to the right side of the board. That's where you become a business owner who builds a system that other people work in, or the ultimate goal, an investor, where your money is out there doing all the heavy lifting for you.
But how do we actually translate that high-level philosophy into reality? Well, financial analysts looking at this book suggest a few grounded steps you can take today. First up, the 60-minute audit. Sit down, map out your monthly cash flow, literally every dollar coming in and going out, and figure out your true net worth. Second, pay yourself first. Set up an automatic transfer of 5 to 10% of your income straight into savings or investments before you pay a single bill. And third, ruthlessly manage your debt. Stop buying depreciating liabilities on credit. Honestly, it's not magic, it's just pure discipline.
Moving on to Section 4, The Controversial Author.
All right, we've covered the myth and the message. Now what about the reality? Because while the book's concepts are globally celebrated, Robert Kiyosaki's own financial track record is, well, it's a bit of a roller coaster. He constantly praises failure as the ultimate teacher, and to be fair, he's had plenty of lessons. Back in 1980, his company selling those nylon Velcro surfer wallets went totally bankrupt, leaving him a cool $1 million in debt. By 1985, his rock band t-shirt business also tanked, as music tastes changed, reportedly leaving him briefly homeless. He did bounce back, obviously, and in 1997, Rich Dad Poor Dad exploded onto the scene. But the turbulence definitely didn't stop there. Jump to 2012, and one of his companies, Rich Global LLC, actually filed for bankruptcy after being ordered to pay nearly $24 million to a former partner.
Because of this wild history, financial journalists have been incredibly harsh. Critics are quick to point out that a lot of his advice in the book is dangerously vague or even legally questionable, like dropping hints about the benefits of insider trading or buying real estate with absolutely zero money down. Plus, there's heavy speculation that the whole rich dad character was entirely fabricated just for marketing.
On top of that, investigations by groups like the CBC exposed how free seminars slapped with his brand used aggressive, high-pressure tactics to upsell people into courses that cost up to $45,000. Wow. So a lot of critics just flat out label him a brilliant marketer rather than a legitimate financial expert.
Section 5. Doomsday Predictions for 2026.
And his controversial nature completely spills over into his public forecasts too. Looking at his targets for 2026, Kiyosaki has been dropping some explosive warnings. He recently called the massive investment firm BlackRock a private credit pyramid and predicted they're basically going to be the next Lehman Brothers. His advice gets incredibly intense. He literally posted, "Better to skip a meal for a day, but not buy $10 worth of real silver coins." He is absolutely convinced that global debt is unpayable and a catastrophic crash is right around the corner.
So we really have to ask ourselves here, when you weigh these dire warnings about fiat currency collapsing against his long history of sensational marketing, what are we looking at? Is this the brilliant foresight of a visionary investor, or is it just another carefully crafted narrative designed to generate hype? To survive this supposed crash, he recommends a pretty drastic portfolio shift. He outright labels traditional investments, we're talking stocks, bonds, ETFs, US Treasuries, and regular dollar savings, as trash and fake money. Instead, his list of safe assets leans heavily into hard commodities, gold, silver, oil, and yes, actual food reserves, right alongside crypto like Bitcoin and Ethereum. But here's a funny little twist. He actually includes a traditional MBA degree in his safe assets, which is kind of ironic, right? Proving that despite attacking the traditional school system for decades, he still values the practical skills of business management when things go south.
And finally, Section 6. Teaching the next generation.
Look, love him or hate him, Kiyosaki's core message struck such a nerve that parents are now taking matters into their own hands, and it's spawned this massive, booming genre of children's financial literature. We are seeing highly complex adult topics translated into incredibly fun, digestible formats for tweens and teens. Books like Your First Million don't just tell kids to save their allowance, they give them actual interview tips and earning strategies. And then you have comic books like Economics that teach the history of finance from the Middle Ages to today, completely packed with humor and amazing illustrations.
It gets even younger, too. Titles like Money and Business for Kids are literally targeted at 7-year-olds. The whole goal here is to shift that financial mindset as early as humanly possible. Using bright art and funny scenarios, these books are out here teaching first graders the fundamental differences between being an employee, being an investor, and being a business owner.
And I absolutely love this one, Victoria and the Magic of Compound Interest. It uses a full-on fantasy narrative, a little girl discovering a magical world, to teach children the mathematical superpower of compound interest. I mean, they are using storytelling and magic to teach little kids the exact same concepts that millions of adults still completely struggle to grasp today. It's brilliant.
So, bringing it all together, what should we really take away from this explainer? The rich dad phenomenon definitely handed us an undeniable truth. Financial literacy is a required survival skill. Grasping cash flow, building real assets, and cutting out bad debt, those are timeless, mathematically sound principles. But as we've clearly seen with the author's own roller coaster reality, you have to be able to separate those valuable financial truths from the packaged marketing hype. As we pass these colorful books down to our kids, we have to ask ourselves, will this early education finally help the next generation actually escape the rat race, or are we just selling them a brand new myth? I'll leave you to ponder that one. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.